Welcome to the Jehovih Chronicles with your host, Cosmon Cal.
That's right. It's your hostess with the most. It's burning like toast. He is right back at it. Cosmonian. I'm right back in here like I dropped my wallet. Listen, just got up this morning, man. I didn't really have nothing to even talk about. And none that I really wanted to get. I mean, I had 1,000 things. You know, my mouth can run a mile a minute. I had 1,000 things I could have talked about. But I just sometimes you dig what I'm talking about as faith is. You understand that a picture can paint 1,000 words. You know what I mean? And I was just coming up, just searching around, and just some of this interesting stuff that I've been finding lately. And I thought, why not share some of this stuff with my family, man? Hey, this is Jehovah Chronicles number 122. Do y'all remember when I was just talking about, oh man, hey man, we coming up on 100. This is Jehovah Chronicles 122. You dig what I'm talking about? Just thought-provoking topics. The link is pinned at the top of the channel, man. Y'all come in, kick it with your boy, man. We're gonna build. We're gonna build. Gang is up in this thing, man. Thank you for everybody for coming through, man. But I ain't, Cosmo ain't gonna hold you up too much longer. You dig what I'm talking about? Go ahead and get your ice cold water, get you some tea, get you some coffee, whatever you drink in the morning. You know what I mean? A nice what they call them. Well, I keep wanting to say slushy, not slushy, but what do you call them things that not a Slurpee, not a slushy. Where's my mind going blank? And you blend up the fruits with the ice and what come on, y'all. What is that called? You got the little, you got a NutriBullet. A smoothie. There you go. Thank you, Mahalia. That's why my emails is better than your emails. Both of them hit it at the same time. A smoothie. My brain was going crazy for a second. I couldn't think of what that was. But I ran across this, man, and I just wanted to share this. This is called What If Civil War. Just think about it. As faithists, we don't deal with war at all. You know what I mean? Yahweh tells us judgment is already placed on anybody who aids, abets in it in any way whatsoever, knowingly or unknowingly, defensively or offensively. You got the same thing coming. You know what I mean? So it don't matter if you was the person who actually pulled the trigger and killed the person, or you was working in the mess hall, or you pressed the bullets, or you know what I mean, whatever you did what I'm talking about to aid and abet in that war. You got a judgment coming for that. Better talk to your creator. Get back in touch. You dig what I'm talking about? Because guess what? The dope part about it is, ain't this fair? Because if you got into it unknowingly, can't you knowingly try to work yourself out of it? Knowingly, repentantly? Ain't that fair? That's what's being taught in the Waspian. This is what they that you're not gonna burn in hell forever. That they're after redemption, after you clean up what you mess up, there's a way upwards and outwards for you too. You're not stuck. Right? So Creator is totally against any type of killing whatsoever, bar none. If it breathed and you kill it, you wrong. Don't matter if you killing it to eat. Don't matter if you killing it, whatever. If you killed it, you murdered it, you killed it, either one, yeah, it's a bad thing. Shouldn't do that. You dig what I'm talking about? But guess what? There's some comeback for that too. Yeah, you got to read what you saw. Yes. But it ain't forever. See what I'm saying? And you can start to change now. See, that's the dope part. And that go towards, you see what I'm saying? That it's like almost like a spiritual bank. You know what I mean? Do good works and lay that stuff aside. for all the BS you done already did, knowingly and unknowing. Ain't that dope? Ain't that would stop war, hunger, everything. It would stop it all. So I'm running across this, man. Shout out to Mansoor Z and shout out to Masa, man. These white boys crazy. You dig what I'm talking about? Hey, but I like people who search for truth, who dig down and tell it from the way they look at it. I'm not saying that I agree with everything. And as a matter of fact, I don't agree with everything. You dig what I'm saying? But this is just thought-provoking topics. You know what I mean? Jehovah Chronicles 122, your boy Cosmo, man. We're just going to get up into this. And this is called, What If Civil War Broke Out Between Republicans and Democrats? It's kind of dope, the idea, even though, you know, we abhor war, but what if?
With the times as turbulent as they are now, there's been no shortage of fears and assertions that the United States might soon face down an internal upheaval, which will bring forth a second civil war. Consensus on how quickly we're heading for such domestic turmoil already stands quite high and is only rising by the day, especially now in this most contentious and disputed election year. Antagonism and ideological zealotry appear to be growing both on the right and left year by year, to the point that violent demonstrations and direct aggression no longer shock the average American, this seemingly having been embraced as the new reality by many, the new normal. Theories abound. Who will fire the first shot? Where and when will the fighting begin? Where will we be safe? Who will win? What will follow? They say that President Trump will refuse to accept the election results if Biden wins, that the election will be sabotaged through manipulation of the ballots. They say that Biden should refuse to concede to a Trump victory, that it'll be rigged by foreign powers like Russia, and that the whole Trump presidency to this point has been illegitimate. Last election saw anti-Trump riots terrorize several cities, while anti-Trump politicians waged a political crusade against the new administration. In the build-up to this election, we've seen identical or greater months of chaos both on the streets and in the chambers of Washington. What will come next can only be expected to intensify, and for that reason, people across the political spectrum have begun preparing for the worst, as it seems no result stands a chance of producing a peaceful and civil outcome. The factions of a hypothetical American Civil War, as with the former, break down roughly along ideological, party, and geographic lines. The conservative Republican faction largely concentrated in rural regions, and the left-wing Democrat faction largely concentrated in smaller urban centers. Broadly speaking, unlike the North-South divide of the prior Civil War, which saw industry and agriculture respectively dominated by one of the two sides, the conservative faction boasts an abundance of both, as it has access to the majority of raw resources via mines and forests, agriculture on account of plentiful farmland, industry thanks to major manufacturing states such as Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and much of the South, though Ohio and Pennsylvania could be expected to be contested territories. Land-wise, this faction holds control over the vast majority of the country, but this land is nowhere near as densely populated as the Democrat-dominated cities. American conservatives also boast higher per capita military experience, especially among the older population, though most modern statistics show the current military to be near evenly split in support for and opposition to the current administration. Percentage-wise, over half of all Republican households are estimated to own firearms, as opposed to only some 20% of all Democrat households, giving this faction an overall advantage in regard to defensive tactics and likely experience in weapon handling. The Democrat faction's greatest strength comes from its overwhelming population concentration, making occupation and conquest of their held territories extremely difficult. This large population also serving as a great store of labor to draw upon and fuel the war effort, though its number of combatants, even given the population's overall size, can be expected to be equal to or less than that of the conservative faction, as urban lifestyles don't typically promote the same laborious existence and dedication to armed service which most rural communities might. This high population density also has a double edge, as all these people will need to be fed, and such urban environments are typically dependent upon outside food production. There's also the point that despite the difficulty of invading these cities head-on, their small geographic size leaves them vulnerable to being surrounded and starved out. Democrat cities benefit from highly developed infrastructure, however, heavy dependency on this also proves to be a vulnerability, as such infrastructure could be destroyed by local enemy forces with relative ease. Above all else, Democrat cities boast strong economies with ties to foreign investors and trade partners, allowing them to draw in support from outside the country and supplement lacking food, medicine, or weapons. Like the conservatives, the Democrats also hold a number of major manufacturing sites, including...
I'm just saying, y'all, this don't sound fun at all. None of this war stuff sounds like it's about to spiritually progress my child. It is not going to stop one hungry person. As a matter of fact, it's going to make millions of them. The cost of things are not going to decrease. They're going to skyrocket. Does any of this sound fun? If this sounds fun, hit me with a 1. If this sounds terrible, hit me with a 2 real quick. None of this sounds fun. There ain't no spiritual progression in killing people.
Including New York, Illinois, and California, along with minor agricultural hubs in the Northeast and Great Lakes region. Democrat cities tend to be heavily defended by well-armed police departments, Chicago, Illinois investing nearly 40% of its budget on police funding, while New York City invests upward of $5 billion on law enforcement, producing what's come to be known as the militarized officer. That said, a great majority of these officers tend to be politically conservative, many of whom openly support President Trump and who may not hesitate to act against a clear radical or secessionist movement. These factions also include sub-factions whose goals or interests might differ from the main wing. On the Republican side, you have the fiscal and neoconservatives, as well as libertarians, all of whom may not share the same social conservatism of the main faction.
Listen, this is who got their fingers on the pulse, and this is who they want you to trust. This is who they... Listen, if you give your life and your hands over to these people, you crazy. But if you want to act like the system isn't doing what it's doing, you're also crazy. You dig what I'm saying? When are you going to take control of your vote? You want to see some shit go haywire? Everybody stop. You really want to see it go bad? I mean, they listen, they're going, listen, they putting the gasoline draws on right now. They have been doing it since they got here. You dig what I'm talking about? Nobody at the top of either one of these groups. What I'm trying to show you is that both of these people, the Democrat and the Republican, they're both your enemy. This is just a double-headed snake. Remember, they got the same tail and body. This is just a two-headed snake. One side of the coin and the other, but it's the same coin. And just like all coins, they trying to get in your pocket. When we start voting and when you understand that voting block is real, you're never going to change the system, but it can be worked in. But that take people to understand that, look, we got one goal. And understand neither one, the Democrat or the Republican, has your best interest. But we can't see, this is how you play them against each other. You vote on certain things on this side and certain things on this side. You dig what I'm talking about? Irregardless of party. Whoever got our benefit, and ain't it, if we supposed to be a minority in this country, right? Why is it that every time voting season come around, the only people they talking to is quote unquote black folks? They trying to sway our vote. They already gonna vote how they gonna vote, and we know how they gonna vote, but they always trying to sway us. If we got such small numbers and we are just these insignificant little people, right? Like they try to paint the picture. Why is it when we say what goes, that's what goes? Boy, they tried to get Trump in here last time. Nah. Most black folk voted for Biden. Got Biden on in there, and then look what he did. He messed you over. He didn't even talk to Ice Cube. And then told you, this nigga, you should have known right here. This is when we should have voted for Trump. This is why we should have voted for Trump back then. When that nigga told you, you ain't black. And he was right. You ain't black. Black is a crayon color. But you know what he was saying. And don't act like you didn't know. You ain't no nigga if you don't vote for Biden. If you don't vote Democrat. Nigga, that's the trick. Don't you know the Democrats is the Dixiecrats? Malcolm been telling us that since the 50s. The Democrat, if anything, we was Republican first. That's what you don't know. The Republicans was the anti-slave party. And if you look at some of the politics of the Republicans, they just bought their bread. But they playing in the market they know is unfair. They're gonna cut the deal still their way. So you got to steal, you know, it's a hydrogen bomb on one hand, atomic bomb on the other. It's still a bomb. You dig what I'm saying? But now, once we get that voting block together, it's gonna be ugly. This is how you make stuff move. This is how little groups of people. You ain't went into one city in America and ain't seen a little Italy, Chinatown, little Vietnam, Greek town, huh? Cork town, which means Irish town. You ain't okay. About to pop us up a couple niggervilles. Hey man, we just early in the morning, man. Like that split our ting. Let's go with the rhythm. Roll with the vortex.
But find their agenda overlapping with that of the mainstream. Under President Trump, relations between social conservatives, fiscal conservatives, and libertarians have been brought closer, as the president has emphasized an originalist reading of the Constitution which resonates well with pro-gun and free speech libertarians especially, and has promoted both deregulation and a strong stance against socialist policy, which resonates well with fiscal conservatives. The neoconservatives who hold their roots in interventionist war hawk liberalism have seen general estrangement from the mainstream administration, as Trump has sought to withdraw America from global intervention in favor of stronger domestic policy, leading some neoconservatives to throw their support behind the Democrats. On the Democrat side, you have far-left individuals who differ from the mainstream liberal and social Democrat base, though that being said, the lines have begun to blur and it seems this faction, or at least aspects of it, are growing within the Democrat Party to the point they may dominate a large segment of it.
And right when we started voting Democrat was with civil rights. Before that, you was always Republican. But they duped you into that, bro. Civil rights was fucked up. You ever got a civil rights check yet? You ever got a civil rights land grant, home loan? I bet you there's at least at least 1 million white women who have free health care, all that stuff. Because guess what? They're a minority group. Boy, they duped. They did a 1-2. And white women are a minority group in America. Y'all didn't. You didn't know why the feminist movement? Nigga, they playing on your civil rights. You ain't know why LGBTQ? Yeah, civil rights, bro. They cutting checks and jobs. Hey, look, we behind the ball.
Of it in due time. There are also the large minority factions which the Democrat Party appeals to because of their pro-equality agenda and liberal position on immigration, allowing the Democrats to enjoy major support from blacks, Asians, and Hispanics. That said, blacks in particular tend to hold socially conservative positions in regard to immigration, gender roles, religion, and so on, though remain economically left-leaning and stand to benefit from Democrat attempts to reduce white conservative hegemony and secure their own communities in the mostly conservative South.
See how they put you in the field? Yeah, we think about especially now in these days immigration, man. Something got to be done. You dig what I'm talking about? This is crazy. You dig what I'm talking about? You can't get nobody together before you get the Negro together. Flat out, your whole country gonna fall down. You don't even know what you got planned for you. You done already made your bed. You done spilt the milk, and you know you sitting there looking at it, and you think we gonna clean it up. No, you gonna get down there and clean that up, America. The United States. Yeah, you're gonna get it together. Still the most despised people in the world today, man, and you know it. You're gonna pay for that genocide. That paper whooping we took. Oh man, the paper genocide was worse than the physical. We still here. But that paperwork and that land that was attached to the people that came before us. Oh yeah, it's all gonna be all right real soon.
The Democrats could count on black support in a civil war scenario. However, long-term disagreements on social...
They already know. This is sociopolitics. They already say, well, we'll give them a couple dog whistle words over here. Black, white power, economic, what's the word that they say? Urban. So now it's somehow got something to do with black folks. Get to Aboriginals, Negroes, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm talking about when I say black folk. I don't play the little word games. You know what I mean? I'm kind of too grown for that. You know, but I know people be in certain, thought paradigms. You dig what I'm talking about? And they limit themselves to the speech of how their group thinks. Well, no. You know, what if I'm in something higher than what you in? And I'm going to use every word that I can possibly gain and have to use to get my point across to people who trying to hear. I mean, we coming to them times, y'all. It's going to be all right, though. Watch. What if Civil War broke out and it was some blue, red, you dig what I'm talking about? East Coast, West Coast beef. And this is how they trying to play it. I'm trying to tell you, they're trying to literally talk a war into happening. They may even try to fake a terrorist attack. Well, I mean, watch, bro.
Policy may lead this alliance to fracture and perhaps even more quickly in urban environments once resources became more scarce and the Democrat government was forced to impose strict regulations on its increasingly rivaling sub-factions. Both factions being broken down, we should also consider allies and outside factors which may involve themselves in such a conflict. But first, let's take a moment to thank today's sponsor,
Ridge Wallet! Are you gearing up for the apocalypse? All decked out in your Mark II combat armor? But wait, you're not taking that flimsy wallet with you. Only Ridge Wallet go.
The nature of foreign intervention would hinge upon the various factors of the war then in progress. Imagining the conflict as pitting an establishment government against a rebel, secessionist, or insurgency government, be it right-wing or left-wing, said insurgency could be expected to receive support from American enemies and rivals who would greatly benefit from the destabilization of the US. Countries like China and Russia come to mind. The extent of this support could range from indirect financial and resource provisions to direct military intervention. However, this latter option risks the conflict developing to a far larger global war, which neither China nor Russia would want. Russian involvement could be expected to favor a specific winner and not merely American destabilization as an end goal. In recent history, the Democrats have continually poked at Russia and identified it as a threat to global peace, citing its aggression in the Ukraine and Middle East. Thus, a Democrat-dominated America, even in a weakened state, would prove detrimental to Russia's goals. And so, the conservatives, who favor distancing America from global politics, would be a preferred winner, whether they be the insurgency or the establishment. In either case, Russia could provide indirect military support through the sending of volunteer soldiers and lending of weapons. In the case of China, we could see them supporting the Democrats in favor of the more aggressive conservative administration which they've been dealing with over the last few years. Western Europe could sway anywhere from a position of neutrality to conditional involvement. In contrast to Russia, Europe had maintained fairly positive relations with the Democrats and condemned Republican withdrawal from international affairs and obligations which previously enriched European trade and offered additional securities against Russian influence in Eastern Europe. Though it's difficult to imagine Western Europe supporting a Democrat insurgency, support for a Democrat establishment government does seem very likely if in fact the Democrats assume power. In a traditional war, Western European intervention might be a decisive tide-turner. However, if the conflict were to take on the characteristics of a fourth-generation war, that is, not individual states in active rebellion, but large masses of the population across the country acting as guerrilla fighters, foreign intervention of this kind would only lengthen hostilities and increase the bloodshed, with no guarantee of success. Fourth-generational warfare seems most likely to occur if the conservative faction is the acting insurgency, as unlike the Democrats who hold small, concentrated pockets of land, the conservatives are spread out across the majority of the country and heavily armed at the civilian level. Occupation of 30 or so major cities hardly compares to patrolling over 1 million miles of rural land where you don't know if the local population is friendly or hostile. The English-speaking countries of Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the UK can be expected to remain supportive of the establishment government regardless of which faction holds power. These countries hold close ties to the US and have maintained mutually beneficial partnerships with the American government since the Cold War era. While Australia and the UK might intervene militarily, Canada, on account of its small population and neighboring proximity, would remain militarily neutral to prevent the American Civil War from spilling over onto Canadian soil. This would leave the Canadians playing a more humanitarian role in perhaps housing or transporting American war refugees from one part of the US to another. Depending upon who is in power, Australia and the UK could either provide naval support in subduing the rebellious Democrat coasts, or put pressure on the conservative South via the Gulf of Mexico. Additionally, Israel, who has long depended upon a close partnership with the United States, might take active measures to bring the civil war to an end so as to protect its most powerful ally. While this would likely mean a supporting of the establishment government regardless of which faction holds power, the recent progress made by Trump in securing several of Israel's desired lands and negotiating peace in the Middle East could endear Israel to the conservative faction especially, and it would be this faction, namely Christians, who tend to be most supportive of the state of Israel as opposed to certain Democrats who might sympathize more closely with the Palestinians.
We'll just leave that there. Don't keep going.
For that reason, Israel could be expected to involve itself significantly on the side of the conservatives in regard to providing weapons, resources, wealth, and manpower, doing so to ensure their continued partnership in the future. Mexico and other countries in Latin America could be expected to participate on a minor scale, generally on the side of the Democrats, providing volunteer fighters, perhaps supplying weapons or vehicles, as well as taking in a number of Hispanic refugees who may have only moved to the US recently in pursuit of an easier life, but now sought to escape the incoming war. The capabilities of Central America and the Caribbean countries are fairly limited, but their strategic location could prove an asset for the Democrat West to move its troops through. Major countries in South America, such as Argentina and Brazil, as well as the US Pacific allies of Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines, could also be expected to offer small-scale participation during the conflict, generally in favor of the conservatives. In the event of Democrat insurgency, Asian Pacific support could play a crucial role in bringing Hawaii and the West Coast back under federal control, as Japanese and Korean military capabilities rank higher than even France and the UK. Let's assume the outcome of the election is the key point of escalation. Biden or Trump wins and the losing faction is forced to step down. What follows could be mass civilian-level violence, namely acts of terrorism by right-wing militia groups or occupation of major cities by far-left rioters. We could see state-level rebellion in which the governors of major opposition states, perhaps in response to the civilian-level violence, move to formally secede from the Union, this being most likely to occur for Democrat states as opposed to Republican states, as such an option had seriously been considered by some Democrat states since the beginning of the administration. Finally, we could see war break out at the federal level if, because of the issue of delayed mail-in ballots or further accusations of foreign interference, neither side emerges as a clear winner. Whatever the case may be, a federal-level conflict would see Trump his...
Look at this. I want to show you the difference in following work in the world's people and ooze and war and death. Look what Creator got to say about it. Huh? Look what the Creator got to say about it. Book of Judgment, 32:12. Judgment is rendered against all nations and people, Americans, in the world who engage in war, So, hold on. Judgment is rendered against all nations and people in the world who engage in war, thus bringing these afflictions upon the angels of heaven. Judgment is rendered against every nation and all people in the world who carry on war. So who is the God inspiring? Who would be the God inspiring this so-called civil war? Who was the God that inspired the last Civil War of 1865? Think about it. Didn't they just say there's always an implication to where somehow Democrat and Republican, because remember, this is what we're supposed to be fighting about, right? Has trickled down into Christian and verse, I guess, whatever it would be, Muslim, or you know what I mean, or a conservative verse, you know what I mean, whoever. They always pitting one against the other, but it gets down to a religious base. So who is the God that is inspiring war when Creator is saying judgment is rendered against every nation and all people in the world who carry on war? Or, listen, or are just accessory to war. So when they was talking about right here, when they was talking about Canada, you know, they was trying to stay neutral. They was dealing with it, but you know, trying to hey, just fall back and see who was winning. But we gonna deal with whoever was winning. Oh yeah, you ain't get away with it neither. You ain't get away with it neither. Or just accessory to it, in which what happens? Any man created alive by the Creator is slain, killed, murdered. They're all the same word. Remember, the whole point is a life is being taken that you or nor any of these governments, nations, kingdoms, ideologies created. A life is being taken. Now look, in defense of any king or ruler, or in defense of any country or government in the world. And look, if you think you got away, and whether any war is offensive or defensive, my judgment is against its aiders and abettors. Don't matter what you did to contribute, you was contributing. And people was dying. And you was bringing these afflictions. What afflictions? These men who died on the field, whose spirits were birthed in the spirit world in chaos, fighting left and right. They don't even know they did. You get hit with an AK in the head, pow, you don't know you did. Your spirit's still running, like you still, let's go, guys. We're gonna kill them. No, you dead. You don't even know you did. But your spirit was birthed alive in chaos in the spirit world. And whether any war is offensive or defensive, so the whole, oh, well, they come over here. Yeah, okay, you do what you got to do. I'm not saying that. You do what you got to do. But understand that there's already judgment against it. You got to repay for them lives that you willing to sacrifice. You go ahead. Ain't nobody telling you not to protect yourself. Hold on, is that somebody in the back? Oh. Nobody's telling you not to protect yourself. All right? This is Cosmon Era. We got balance spiritually and physically. But that means with that freedom comes responsibility. And just know what you're getting into. Be willing to go into them hells that you so scared of from your God, because that's where you're gonna go. What you think this? You killed this man. He know you killed him. He in the spirit world. What long before you die? What? And let's say he still got that hate on his heart for you taking his life. What you think he gonna do to you when you birthed into the spirit? You brand new to this. You don't know how to do nothing. You virtually a baby. What you think he gonna do to you? Or what you think he could do to you? Right? And wouldn't it be just if he told, because you thought you got away with it in physicality, but you didn't know it was something coming after that in the spiritual life. But just know, the Creator is always against war and the taking of life. And whether any war is offensive or defensive, my judgment is against its aiders and abettors, against the kings and the queens, other rulers who are parties to war, willingly, knowingly, or otherwise, like untacitly. Some people who just join the army, just trying to get out the hood, just trying to, they just regular people. They don't even want to kill nobody. They go into, robotics and all this stuff, you know what I mean? But then they take them robotics, right? You was just trying to, get by. You just a regular person. You wanted some benefits and see the world and travel and, you know what I mean, get some money and do what you wanted to do. But you were aiding and abetting in the taking of millions of lives, let's just say in the last decade. You know how many people the United States government has killed with its war machine? Whew. Millions. You know what I mean? And you was an aider and abetter. Don't matter if you made the boots. Don't matter if you was the guy in the morning chefing up the food to give to the soldiers so they could have the energy to go out to kill. Don't matter if you was back all the way in America controlling the drone, bombing Gaddafi and his grandchildren at their birthday party. Yeah. Don't matter if you was the government sneaking in guns into Libya, got caught in Benghazi because the people who attacked Benghazi had American guns. Right? And then them same people from Libya who go on to kill Gaddafi, right? Cross the border and become ISIL. Putin told on them. That's what it is. Putin told on them. See how quick they swept that ISIS stuff up under the rug? Yeah. Yeah. So whether any war is offensive or defensive, my judgment is against its aiders and abettors and against the kings and the queens or other rulers who are parties to war, governments, nations. Any other rulers who are party to the war, willingly, knowingly, or otherwise, could be untacitly. Like I said, you was just part of the war machine. You personally didn't get out there and bust no guns at all. You was in there cooking up chemicals that they was bombing people with, playing chemical warfare, killing people with. Yeah. You was part of that too. But look, I judge him guilty who is also general, commodore, captain, sergeant, or private that engages in war, takes part in it, aiding, abetting, or otherwise, in which any man created alive by the Creator is slain or caused to suffer death. And that means anyway. Don't matter if you blew up the bomb that stopped the water from running through a little city, and the people didn't have clean water, and they got septic, and they died from sepsis. Yeah. Stuff that you had probably been gone 2 weeks. You had already did your job and been gone. You didn't know it messed the water up. But some people died as a result of what you did because they ain't had no fresh drink of water. I'm just saying, for instance. This is not a stretch, what I'm saying. We know that this stuff happens all the time. But just know what you got coming with it. It's all good.
Governors and supporting
Do you, pimp?
public recognize the Trump victory as legitimate,
But
while Biden
this is what you get with war. This is why Creator is against it. This is what you get. Keep watching.
supporting governors and supporting public recognize their own victory as legitimate. The result is an essential crisis of succession where neither side is willing to concede or compromise, and ultimately resorts to war. Beginning with a civilian-scale scenario, essentially the whole of the country would be in the early throes of war, especially states where Republican-Democrat support is near evenly divided. The safest areas would probably be communities which lean very strongly toward your own party, as the most intense violence would be occurring in states and communities where Democrats and Republicans could easily clash. The federal government would, of course, take measures to bring the country under control, but the chaos of this mass unrest would eventually allow more organized movements to rise up and assume leading roles among those in rebellion. The point at which war may be officially declared is once the organized rebellion defines itself as a clear non-state aggressor by launching a direct attack upon the opposition. This doesn't mean a street clash or engagement of that sort, but a coordinated invasion or strike on a community, a politician, political body, the military, etc. For the conservatives, this likely means terrorist attacks on liberal cities, and for the Democrats, this means expansion of urban riots to the point of occupying neighboring conservative communities, or hijacking federal assets, such as local military bases. As the rebelling faction becomes more organized, so would it drift closer to a state-level threat, seeing its forces increasingly concentrated within a certain geographic area. For the Democrats, this area would be the majority of the coastal west, the urban mid-Atlantic region, and the Black Belt along the south. These are regions where the Democrats and their subfactions stand in highest number, hold the most assets, and would be most likely to win the support of the local population. For the Republicans, lands likely to be occupied include the Rocky Mountain region, Appalachia, Texas, and large portions of the South. All these locations are strongly conservative, take advantage of natural geographic defenses, and unlike cities, are generally self-sustaining. Democrat territories in rebellion would have a good deal of momentum behind them from the start, but without access to vital farmland and resources, these occupied cities would quickly fall into decline and be reconquered by the establishment government. It's for this reason that if the rebelling Democrats were to survive at this point, they would need to not only secure their presently held domains from federal conquest, but annex conservative occupied resource-producing lands in the Eastern California region, northern New York, and more. This means wars of expansion and conquest, which would bring the Democrats up against well-armed conservative citizens and additional federal forces. In all likelihood, early urban rioting would see the Democrats cripple their momentum before stable leadership took control, and leave them in a poor state to carry on such expansions which they'd require a great deal of material to sustain. If that's not the case, these conquests could be facilitated through the storming of military bases within their already held lands and seizing whatever weapons they find, but we need to also take into consideration the strongly conservative law enforcement within these urban areas and their certain lack of hesitation to crack down on a clear revolution. This essentially amounts to having a heavily armed and well-trained conservative military already present within these Democrat strongholds, one which could at the very least undermine the faction's defenses and leave it vulnerable to outside conquest. On the other hand, a Republican insurgency hunkering down in the mountains and forests, surrounded by largely sympathetic communities with greater access to local resources, would be far more difficult to bring into line. Fighting an enemy like this would be akin to bringing the war on terror directly to the home front. The collateral damage of
you think you about to do something to these boys up here in the Great Lakes, you got a problem. Stop. War ain't cool, y'all. If this is what your plan lead to, get another plan.
which would only intensify moderate conservative support for the insurgents, leading to either an eventual ceasing of conflicts after months or years, or escalation of the insurgency to mass state-on-state conflict. Let us then consider a state-level conflict in which governors of various states deeply supportive of the losing candidate might move to mutually secede in the wake of what they'd recognize as an illegitimate election. On the Democrat side, the states most likely to secede are California in the west and New York in the east. In addition to these two Democrat strongholds, we could also see the traditionally left-wing states of Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut join their larger seceding neighbors, though it should also be noted that some of these states currently have Republican governors, namely Massachusetts and Vermont. But said governors openly oppose Trump's administration and could be expected to collaborate with the Democrats. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, known by some as the Pact to Abolish the Electoral College, might be a good reference point for who on the left is likely to secede, as all these states in agreement lean strongly toward the Democrat Party, oppose the Trump presidency, and by the nature of this compact, aim to alter the national election so as to favor densely populated urban areas at the expense of entire communities and states with less population density. On the Republican side, determining which states might secede or which communities might initiate hostilities becomes more difficult, though Texas along with parts of the South and Montana along with parts of the Northwest are possible suspects. As stated before, a conservative faction is more likely to adopt fourth-generational warfare, as opposed to state-level secession, which would be more likely of the Democrats, whose populations are concentrated on the periphery of the main country. Because of this, we'll specifically focus on Democrat secession for this possibility. Domestically, the states in secession could expect resistance to their new governments from conservatives within their borders. The east and west coasts, though dominated by major cities, aren't fully defined by them, and these inland regions could be expected to mount their own counter-secessionist movements so as to rejoin the US, much as West Virginia had done during the First Civil War. The lands immediately claimed and held by the seceding Democrat governments would likely look something like this, and assuming successful efforts are made to capture vital conservative-held resource lands, could expand as far as this. The goal of state secession would not be to overpower the rest of the country, but simply hold their ground and break away as independent entities. A securing of resource lands would allow the Democrat coasts to hold out long enough to potentially negotiate a peaceful end to conflicts and maintain their independence. However, without these territories, Democrat lands would very likely be overwhelmed and reconquered in a matter of months. There also exists a threat of the Democrats launching an offensive campaign once they've acquired sufficient resources, quickly charging through low-population conservative areas and seizing them by force, triggering subsequent wars between the new coastal republics and the original United States. Finally, there's the possibility of a federal-level conflict.
Before we cover a federal-level war, let's first divide the nation into geographic areas. California is a geographic region
Pay attention. Pay attention.
of its own. It has a large Republican population, but is ultimately a Democratic stronghold. It is the center of the Western War for the Democrats. The states of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, or the North Rockies, are exclusively Republican. It is the center of the Western War for the Republicans. The states of Washington and Oregon, otherwise known as Cascadia, have major Democratic cities but are otherwise Republican, and because of its proximity to California and the North Rockies would be a conflict zone. The states of Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, or the South Rockies, are likewise divided. The Democrats have control of the cities and the interstate highway system. The Republicans have more geographic territory. It is also a conflict zone. Texas is another region on its own. It is almost exclusively Republican. It would exert direct influence over Oklahoma and Arkansas. North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri are the Great Plains states. They are effectively all Republican and serve as the divider between East and West. Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana are the Great Lakes states and are loosely Democrat. However, they have a large Republican opposition as well. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine are the Atlantic states. They are solidly Democratic, especially along the coast. Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, and parts of Pennsylvania are known as Appalachia. This also includes some of rural Virginia and New York based on political similarity. It is Republican, but flanked by Democratic states. It is a conflict zone. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Florida are the South. Mostly Republican, but have a strong Democratic presence in Atlanta, New Orleans, and various African American communities. Due to this Democratic presence, it is a conflict zone. The three major fronts are the Western Front, with California and the North Rockies fighting over Cascadia and the South Rockies. The Southern Front, with the Republican establishment.
I want you to look where they fighting. Those is all the cities where you at. Now, this is just a what if. Look, this just what if. The thing I want you to also notice is they know you about to fight. They counting on it. My thing is, if they know you will fight now, they knew you will fight then. That changed the whole slavery narrative up. If you've been fighting the whole time and slavery wasn't nothing but a job. Kind of makes sense. Why the so-called slave people in Florida, the so-called runaway Seminoles, they supposed to be these black ass South sub-Saharan Africans. Funny why the Native American followed the slave's order. Ben Bruno ran Billy Bowlegs. He told Billy Bowlegs what to do. Told him what deals they would take, where they would go, when they would go, how much money, this much, that much. This is what we're going to do. But if you're the slave, how are you running the master? Just want you to see, everywhere you are is where the fight is. Even in these so-called Republican states. I think what they think is going to happen is not going to happen. And they going to turn their guns on themselves. The people that's going to be doing the shooting ain't going to be us. Just saying.
Fighting a democratic resistance, and the Northern Front, with the Atlantic and the Great Lakes fighting against Appalachia. Texas and the Great Plains would support the Republican forces of all fronts, but are too far away to be included in them. The Western Front would be entirely about the interstate highways. These are vital routes that go through the mountains and across the deserts. They are controlled by the Democrats through the major cities, but the Republicans can cut them off at any moment. Fighting would center around the South Rockies, with California pushing into Nevada and Arizona. The North Rockies would come down into Utah and Colorado. Most of the conflict would be between Cheyenne and Denver. This front would be defined by the Battle of Salt Lake City and the Battle of Denver. If California could win both, they would have control over the South Rockies. The same goes with victory for the North Rockies. Cascadia would also be the center of the war, as California would try to relieve Portland and Seattle from a Northern Rocky siege. The Battle of Portland would determine who gives up first. On the Northern Front, the Atlantic and the Great Lakes would need to unite their forces in order to achieve maximum power. This would require conquering Republican Appalachia. The North definitely has more industry and manpower, but Appalachia has difficult terrain and a strong sense of resistance. If Appalachia could endure attrition long enough, then the Democrat forces would collapse. Likewise, if the Democrats could break Appalachia, then they would unite and be able to push farther south. This brings us to the Southern Front. The African American communities could become a significant threat, especially if they captured New Orleans or Atlanta. However, their dispersion and lower population means they could only really take New Orleans or Atlanta. Their ultimate success would depend on how well the Democrats did in the North. If the Democrats did succeed, then they would move southward to meet up with the African American communities. The battles of Atlanta and New Orleans would bring an end to the South. If the Northern Front is a failure for the Democrats, the
See why we got to dodge that African American hijack?
Southern Front is a failure too. Ultimately, too many factors are required for the Democratic victory. They would have to win the battles of Portland, Salt Lake City, Denver, Columbus, Atlanta, and New Orleans. And at this point, they would still need to conquer the Plains, Texas, and the North Rockies. A realistic Democratic victory might be, instead of total victory, just enough to secede and become independent. An independent California with control over the South Rockies and an independent Atlantic, but at the cost of Cascadia, the South, and the Great Lakes. The Republicans would then have control over the rest of the continental United States.
Some have drawn parallels between our present national being and the years which led up to not just our first civil war, but those of Russia, China, and Spain. many using said conflicts as an essential checklist or playbook for what might happen here. Certain factors are shared, however, none compare even close to perfectly, and it'd be a terrible mistake to use these past examples as templates which translate perfectly into modern day. The occupational, ethnic, and social demographics are dramatically unique. Transportation, communication, and infrastructure is more advanced than it's ever been. The social norms and standards of engagement and combat have changed. Foreign entanglement has reached levels which likely surpass both of the Great Wars combined. And as I'm sure we all know, destructive capabilities today are unmatched by any conflict we've seen in the past. The breakdown of conflicts we presented today are of course a broad analysis of the overall concept, but this can hardly capture the tragic intensity that would be full-scale war on American soil. The fate of the nation would be reoriented for the next few decades under the careful guidance of whichever faction came out on top. Perhaps the nation wouldn't emerge.
Just interesting. You dig what I'm talking about? Interesting. Now, you really want to get into something really interesting. And shout out to Masa Man. You dig what I'm saying? Listen, the dude got some his view on things, and I can respect it. You dig what I'm talking about? But he tries to keep it scientifically based, without any undue told biases. You dig what I'm saying? And he be coming with it, man. And this is something I wanted to share with y'all. This is called Who Exactly is Caucasian? Remember, this is 122 thought-provoking topics when early morning with Cosmo and Cal. Man, I ain't mean to make you spill your coffee real quick. But who exactly is Caucasian? You know what I mean? This 122, man, thought-provoking topics. With your boy Cosmo and Cal early in the morning, man. Let's roll up your splipper-teens, man, and let's shout out to the boy Masa Man. You dig what I'm talking about? Fair use. Teaching purposes only. All rights reserved. Check this out, y'all.
They all belong to the same race, the Caucasian race. Everyone knows.
I want y'all to go back.
What do Sri Lanka, Somalia, Sweden, and Syria all have in common? Well, other than the fact that they all start with the letter S, they all belong to the same race, the Caucasian. For hundreds of years, historians,
Did y'all hear what he said?
anthropologists,
A Somalian. Watch this. Hold on. Watch what he said. Listen.
Somalia, Sweden, and Syria all. What do Sri Lanka,
Sri Lanka, Somalia,
Sweden, and Syria all have in common?
Sweden and Syria. Sri Lanka, Somalia, Sweden, and Syria. Yes. What do they all have in common? Watch this.
Well, other than the fact that they all start with the letter S, they all belong to the same race, the Caucasian race. Everyone.
Yo. Let that sink in a second. Did you know that? Look. All right.
Everyone knows that. Or maybe not. For hundreds of years, historians, anthropologists, and linguists have been trying to make sense of the world and the human species, and this has led to the classification of humanity based on some immutable and more transient characteristics such as language, religion, culture, and appearance. Thus, after hundreds of years of observation and study, most Western scholars had come to the conclusion that a large segment of the human population could be divided by common origin, mostly based off skull shape, body type, and facial features rather than skin color. And the majority agreed on the grouping of a gargantuan segment of people, including Ethiopians, Europeans, Middle Easterners, most South Asians, and even the Burmese at one point, but not Finns or Hungarians, as strange as that sounds, as a population having at least a partial common ancestral origin, dubbed the Caucasian race. But the question is, do these groups actually have anything to do with each other whatsoever? And the short answer, actually, is yes. Does this mean that all of these groups are descended from Europeans? No, obviously not, and the vernacular of using the term Caucasian solely to describe people of European descent is extremely strange, to say the least, considering modern Caucasians from the Caucasus Mountain region, such as Armenians, Azeris, and Georgians, don't exactly look like the typical Caucasian, leading to some anthropologists using the term Caucasoid instead, or as a more general term, although I prefer not to use either of these in a professional or personal setting for a variety of reasons, which I'll get into later.
Are you sick of having issues with your webinars, wasting tons of time on troubleshooting with attendees? If so, you need StreamYard on air. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce.
Now, it is true that there were many ideological motivations and pseudoscientific explanations behind the historical use of the proposed classifications of the human species, but this is true for literally almost any other field of study when looked at through a certain lens, and doesn't mean we should entirely discount the work of honest men whose research has compounded upon each other for generations, giving a surprisingly accurate picture of the world even before genetic technology or the internet. So I'll probably explain in further detail in future videos, but when it comes to measuring admixture from a genetic standpoint, it's generally distinguishable between four main ancestral gene pools, that being sub-Saharan African, which includes the Niger-Congo peoples, or the typical Black African, the African hunter-gatherer populations, such as the Khoi and Pygmies,
Typical Black
and
African.
Eastern Eurasian, which includes Northeast and Southeast Asians, and occasionally Native Americans as well. Southern Eurasian, which includes the original inhabitants of South and Southeast Asia, as well as those of Papua New Guinea, Australia, and Tasmania. And lastly, Western Eurasian, principally the ancestors of Europeans, Middle Easterners, North Africans, and the bulk of the Indian subcontinent. Although Eastern Eurasians and Africans may have the most obvious phenotypic similarities within their respective groupings, phenotype is not always a good indicator in genetic classification, as many Australian Aborigines and Melanesian peoples, despite their surface level similarities to Africans, are actually the most genetically disparate populations in the world. Similarly, there is a large degree of diversity in terms of physical appearance among Western Eurasian populations due to the vast area they inhabit, and one common misconception is that genetic similarity or distance is based off appearance, which is where archaic descriptors kind of fall apart. It makes much more sense when looking at different population groupings in terms of genetic clustering rather than a simple line in the sand due to the complexities of human migration, intermixing, and genetic drift. But nevertheless, as mentioned, it's possible to distinguish these components in modern people groups today because of genetic technology. Now, the term Caucasian was coined in American English vocabulary from claims from German anthropologists in the 18th century that the people of Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and North Africa originated in the Caucasus Mountain region, which is where they claim the purest ancestries are found, which is false on many levels. So it's just bizarre to me that this term has persisted and spread to so many countries around the world. Although, yes, I acknowledge that this is simply the common vernacular that has evolved over the centuries, and most people don't know the etymological origin behind the term. So although the different races of humanity have split many thousands of years ago, that doesn't mean there hasn't been intermixing between them during this time period. Although Western Eurasians and Sub-Saharan Africans diverged roughly 60 to 100,000 years ago, those from the Middle East, even those from endogamous communities with no recent African heritage, are genetically closer to Sub-Saharan Africans than Europeans, although the genetic gulf is comparatively still large, considering Eastern and Western Eurasians only diverged around 20 to 25,000 years ago and have had considerably more contact on the Eurasian landmass. Additionally, one of the most glaring differences between these races is the interbreeding of archaic humanoid populations such as Neanderthal or Denisovan or others who are actually genetically diverged from modern humans by almost 1 million years. Classification is quite difficult for some groups, such as North Africans, with the bulk of their gene pool originating in the Middle East, although they've also had significant input from Sub-Saharan and European sources, depending on the group, which is why now we're going to jump into admixture rates. There are large differences in admixture between different so-called Caucasian groups, and I suppose we might as well start with the group most heavily associated with this label, the Europeans, who are actually not entirely racially pure. Depending on the method of measurement, sub-Saharan African admixture is distributed across Southern Europeans at rates of around 1.5 to even 4%, depending on the individual, although this is mostly due to intermixing with North Africans rather than direct mixture with sub-Saharans. Eastern Europeans similarly have a small degree of Eastern Eurasian admixture, around 1 to 3% among most Slavic populations, although this is as high as 8 to 9% among the Finns and Northern Russians, who are an amalgamation of Slavic and Uralic peoples in the region, as I recently discussed in a past video. In the overseas diaspora, the bulk of those of European descent in Latin America have at least some Native American or African ancestry, with the rates quite high in countries like Brazil, where the average white Brazilian is over 20% non-European in ancestry, although contrary to popular belief, the percentage of U.S. Americans with Native heritage is actually quite small, with a larger proportion having African ancestry.
I wouldn't have taken 5 caffeine pills every day, but like everyone around me, I was consuming the same amount, but it was in
Likewise, in Australia, white Australians with Aboriginal heritage is fairly low due to a constant stream of European migrants since the 1800s, although New Zealand definitely has a higher degree of miscegenation from the indigenous Maori population. India is around 10 to 15% Central Asian or steppe Indo-European, a group including the Scythians, Tocharians, and original Indo-Iranians. Not exactly European, but the group most closely related historically and genetically, and many people, including some Indians, falsely believe that this is the only Western Eurasian gene flow into South Asia. But even before this, South Asians, including Dravidians, had a large amount of Western Eurasian admixture from older migrants from the Middle East. In the United States history, it was indeed long debated whether Middle Eastern or South Asian people were Caucasian and therefore eligible for citizenship. And long story short, the Supreme Court ruled that Middle Easterners, such as Iranians, Arabs, and Turks, qualified, while Indians did not, which has had a large impact on the general public and the U.S. Census, in which Middle Easterners, North Africans, and Central Asians are still considered white, while those from the subcontinent are grouped together with East and Southeast Asians, which is rather strange, as although there is overlap in culture between these latter groups, genetically speaking, most South Asian groups are definitely closer to Western rather than Eastern Eurasians. Another hybrid realm would be that of the Turkic Central Asians inhabiting much of the former Soviet Union, parts of neighboring China, Mongolia, and Afghanistan, whose genetic makeup varies considerably by group, with the Turkmen having quite a large degree of original Western Eurasian DNA, while the Kyrgyz generally have the largest Turkic Eastern Eurasian DNA. Yet despite this, historically, the entirety of these peoples were almost never considered Caucasian, which seems similar to the situation of the Uralic peoples mentioned earlier, who were similarly not considered Caucasian due to the Eastern origin of the Uralian family. Now, when it comes to the Horn of Africa, a lot of people have a difficult time wrapping their heads around the fact that these Horn Africans were historically considered to be a part of the Caucasian race. However, when you look at the genes, as I discussed in my last video over the Afro-Asiatic world, you find that the Horn African groups are divided between Western Eurasian and Sub-Saharan African DNA, with the Omotic peoples being the most African and Habesha being the least, even having a slight majority Western Eurasian genome. Most Kushites, such as the Oromo, Afar, Beja, or Somali, actually have about as much Western Eurasian and African DNA as Sudanese Arabs on average. So the dichotomous racial classification between Caucasian and African especially doesn't add up in this region, as the Horners really are just their own thing. And this makes sense, as the majority of Somalis and other Horners have always considered themselves to be very racially distinct from other Africans. Large numbers of Somalis owned Bantu slaves from further south. The British census in Kenya in the early 20th century distinguished between what they called Black Africans and Kushites, and today, just ask any Somali or Ethiopian about it themselves. However, what's the cutoff of Western Eurasian ancestry for inclusion into the Caucasian race? 90%? 50%? 30%? This black and white explanation of the world will never match the reality of the situation, as humans have been intermixing for thousands of years, and especially today when new migration and miscegenation is quickly changing the world. Believe it or not, I actually really like this map here, which shows the basal racial components of different areas of the planet in the present day. And yeah, it isn't the most detailed, but sometimes that's a good thing in painting a quick and simplified snapshot of a situation, even though it's much more complicated in reality. Gypsies, Caucasian. Arabs, Caucasian. Pakistanis, Caucasian. Jews, Caucasian. Somalis, Caucasian. So congratulations on being a part of the Caucasian race. As we all know, people of the same race always get along 100% of the time. So stop complaining about each other already. So just who exactly is a Caucasian? It's a rather outdated question with a long and convoluted answer, but don't worry, I'll also be doing videos soon over the complicated genetic makeup of so-called Asians, sub-Saharan Africans, and other groups that are often simplified in Western vernacular and studies. And keep in mind, I'm not exempt from using these outdated vernacular in the past as well, as it's simply the easiest way to convey these ideas to an audience that isn't so well versed on the semantics and intricacies. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts on the matter of just who is a Caucasian.
You dig what I'm talking about? So this is why you can never judge a book by its cover. My big Ima up in here, my sister Huba. How you doing this morning, sir?
I am good. I am good. How about yourself?
Oh man, holding on like a hubcap, but I'm in a fast lane, still spinning. You know me. Jaja is good, so I'm still here. How you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I wanted to jump in and talk about this war thing, because there's a whole lot of stuff that our people don't realize that's going on and has been going on, because the majority of everybody watches bogus news like CNN, MSNBC, and all them news that perpetrate all them lies, and that's fake news. And so that's where a lot of our people get their news from. And I know a lot of people, okay, because this is, if a war breaks out, it will be after the election. And this is why a lot of people, they believe that we had a fair election in 2020, and we did not. Joe Biden did not win that election. Not fairly, he didn't. Because if you go back and watch some of the stuff that a lot of the other news channels have that, that are not popular by the Democrat Party or whatever, it shows you how people were stuffing mail-in ballots in all these boxes, and they were stealing mail-in ballots, filling them in and sending them in, because there were many people who went to go vote, and if they said you already voted, and that wasn't the case. It's because they cheated. Just Joe Biden did not win that election. I'll put it right there. And there are people still upset about that. Now, right now, if a war broke out
Biden stays in office.
Huh?
Biden stays in office if a war breaks out right now. So they don't want it to break out right now.
No, because the man ain't fit enough to run nothing. He's suffering from dementia. I know he suffered from dementia because my mother had dementia. I took care of her till she died. And he's worse off than she was. Because my mom didn't get to the shuffling part, the way they walk. He's shuffling. That means he's almost not in control of his functions. Well, anywho, the Democrats would lose because right now everybody is finding out the truth. Even, okay, for the, like you said, the term, Black people are now finding out that the Democratic Party ain't what they say they are. They have been racist from their inception, and they are still racist. Okay, if you go to, like me, okay, I grew up in Compton, California, Los Angeles, California. If I was to go home today and go back to the last neighborhood I lived in, it would still look like it did 10 years ago. And it's the Democrat, it's a Democrat area. meaning they don't keep their word. They come in your neighborhood and make you all these promises, then don't do nothing.
That's right.
And then
every voting season, every 2 to 4 years, they pop up in the church. Then they need your help and come on out and help support. You know what I mean? Hey, now it's funny. I'm glad that you actually hit the link, Ema. I'm glad that it was you that hit the link. Because I want to share this one with you. Because I know this right up your alley. Because I like this topic right here that we on this topic, and the topic is Black royals, or so-called Negroidal royals of Europe. Right?
Yeah.
So, all right, and, just thought provoking stuff. You know what I mean? Early in the morning, get your brain moving. And because this history through iconoclasty, they whitewash everything, or certain people like to say they blackwash it. They make it pale. You know what I mean? So when we looking back in history and we seeing that they telling us everything, this European. You know what I mean? They condition your mind to think blonde hair, blue-eyed, pale skin, right? But then we hear a whole nother history about Moors and being and being truly European, and these people were here before the other side. It get a little confusing. And now that we in the Cosmon era, that a lot of these things are being revealed, we looking at right here. This is called Black Royals of Europe. And they just don't go through showing the pictures, the sculptures, people that we always heard about, right? And they even show us later paintings or pictures of, and they look like white men, right?
But if you go back to the time,
yes.
If you read the history, they describe what they look like, and they call them swarthy and tawny, and because they black. Because swarthy means black. And they talk about the women. They call the women brunettes, and brunette is not a hair color. It was a black woman or a copper colored woman.
Skin had to do with complexion.
Mm-hmm.
It had to do with complexion. Brunette has to do with complexion, not hair color.
That's right.
You could be a black brunette. You know what I mean? A blonde brunette. You dig what I'm talking about? A redhead brunette.
Mm-hmm. But your skin gonna be brown.
Be brown.
Like this woman on this picture you're showing right here.
Mm-hmm.
She's a brunette.
That's a brunette. Correct. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit, Iman. Let me see if I can blow it up just a little bit. The dude got a little accent, man. I thought it was kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Welcome to Re-Educated TV, where we keep you informed.
We have the bronze statue of Philip II of Spain, said to be done by the artist Pompeo Leone and Leon Leone from the Spanish Royal Collection, Museo del Prado. The statue of Philip II is a masterpiece in my eyes. The details are amazing and shows the level of skills in that era.
Listen,
here we
that
have
ain't no
another
white
statue
boy,
of a
and
bust,
neither is he.
also said to depict Philip II. Philip II was no ordinary king.
That's Philip II.
Mm-hmm. Of Spain.
Of Spain. That's a nigga. That's Jamal, as a matter of fact. He worked at the bodega. I know him. There ain't nobody but Jamal. Huh? I'm trying to tell you, look, man, they hide everything. They lie about everything.
His father was Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor.
Somebody told me, said, Cosmon, You think you Charles V? You look just like Carlos Quintos. One time my dad laughing once I went and seen him. You know what I mean? But look at Charles V. Hold on, let's go back a little bit. This is Charles V. Carlos Quintos. Dig this.
Fifth Holy Roman Emperor, seen depicted here as the 15th Inca Emperor, Carlos Quinto, accompanied with the Holy Roman Cross. The Inca Emperor portrait can be found at the Larco Museum.
See that Kai in that row? Y'all see it? We know who inspiring them, right? Ain't no mistake who inspiring this movement.
Museum, Lima, Peru. The painting depicts the Inca emperors and the subsequent European emperors. If we look in the third line, it shows Philip II and other European kings. This is no news, but further proof how far the Roman Empire's tentacles had a grip on the world. Philip II inherited the powers of his father, Charles V, whom had inherited his powers from Philip I, his father, whose father was Maximilian I. So when Philip II became king, he was ruler of a vast empire. Philip II, known as Philip the Prudent or Felipe el Prudente, from 1527 to 1598, was king of Spain, king of Portugal. In fact, he was Philip II of Spain and Philip I of Portugal. He was king of Naples and Sicily, king of England and Ireland, from his marriage to Queen Mary I, Duke of Milan. He was emperor of the Incas, shown earlier, emperor of the Philippines, named in his honor by Ruel Lopez Villalobos. He was lord of the 17 provinces of the Netherlands. Philip II ruled almost half the world, and rightfully so in their eyes. After all, his father was Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, and his mother Isabella of Portugal. The fact is, Philip II is of a long line of black Roman kings. They were of the Germanic tribes.
You
In
hear
this
that?
portrait, we have a coin depicting Christian, Joan George, and Augustus. Christian was a Scandinavian monarch. Christian reigned as king of Denmark and Norway from 1513 to 1525, and Sweden from 1520 until 1521. We have John George, Elector of Saxony, and the third person depicted is Augustus, also Elector of Saxony.
Wow.
This coin is a gem. The coin not only proves that Christian, Joan George, and Augustus were Negroid, it also captures all three as youths or children. Priceless. As you can see, their names are engraved on the coin. The three dukes of Saxony. No, this coin is said to depict all three figures: Christian, Joan George, and Augustus. But the coin appears to be altered or redone. The truth shows itself when both coins are compared. And as you can clearly see, the coin was altered. This coin is engraved Joan George, and you can clearly see that he is Negroid. And here we have another coin depicting Augustus, Elector of Saxony, dated 1576. The Saxons were Lutherans, a major branch of Protestantism. They were eventually absorbed into the Franks and were later in service to the Habsburg. For those of you who are unsure about the Saxons, you can watch my video on the origin of the Saxons, and you can also watch Atlanteans of the British Isles, Part 1, where it mentions.
Well, when we get into a WASPy, we already get to knowing where these people is really coming from and why they are depicted with this dark skin. Over time, you get a misunderstanding told about the European under the name Gypsy. right? There's a tie under that name, gypsy. You dig what I'm talking about? When they say that today, you think of a romantic, pale skinned people, but
Right, that
initially,
travel.
that's not what it is. And Owaspy give a little hint as into how that even came about, and even where the name Saxon or Johann comes from. You dig what I'm
Okay,
talking about? This
yeah.
get deep. You know what I
Before
mean?
you
But I'm gonna let it go ahead.
before you let it play again, also that all this fits in with the language which we speak called English. The
Fact.
language we speak English did not come from England. This
Mm,
language was
facts.
already here. Even the
Correct.
sign language that they do today was come from the Algonquins. That was
Fact.
their trade language. The
Mm-hmm.
trade language
Fact.
was sign language because every tribe spoke a different language, but they all understood the sign language. And like he mentioned Germanic, the English that the England spoke in England was called High German. You couldn't
Mm,
even read what they call English, like King James Version of the Bible, 1611, the
yeah.
real one. You can't read that. You can't speak that because it didn't sound what we sound like today. So
Right.
I just want to throw that in there with this, because it all fits in.
Right. 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 That's yeah. Look, Iman, yeah, listen. Y'all better listen to Iman when she talking to you, because she know what she talking about.
The Saxons journeying to Britain and their relationship with the Africans, and Gormund, the African leader. In this portrait, we have Alessandro de' Medici with his gallery, artist Angelo Branzino, titled Alessandro de' Medici. Alessandro de' Medici was born on June the 22nd, 1510, in Florence, Kingdom of Italy,
Mm-hmm.
to
Italy,
Lorenzo de'
yeah.
Medici, Duke of
Mm-hmm.
Urbino and Samineta de' Calivicio. Alexandro got married to Margaret of Parma. He then married Taddea Malaspina. Alessandro de' Medici had three children, Giulia de' Medici, Giulio de' Medici, and Parzia de' Medici. He expired on January the 6th, 1537, at age 26 in Florence, Kingdom of Italy. He was said to be the first Medici to rule Florence as a hereditary monarch. He was assassinated by the hands of his distant cousin, Lorenzaccio. The Medicis were Catholics, or of Catholicism. In this painting, we have the cross of Kiev, a replica of the true cross. State United Museum Center in the Kremlin, Moscow. The painting depicts Constantine the Great, Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich, and Patriarch Nikon, seen on the left. On the right, we have Saint Empress Helena and Tsarina Ilyinichna, date
Mm.
1670. Let's take a look at them individually. Ladies first.
1670. Now, mind you, in the tale, you supposed to be somewhere a slave. You hear me? This is what they tell us. You supposed to be somewhere a slave. Somebody plantation somewhere in America, or you ain't supposedly you ain't even in Europe. Come to look around, when you do a little deeper studying, not only are you in Europe, you running it. It's
And
crazy.
you and all this is debunks the out of Africa stuff too.
Tears it apart.
Mm-hmm.
We have Empress Saint Helena, also known as Saint Helena Augusta, or Helena of Constantinople, 246 to 330. She was said to be consort of Emperor Constantius and the mother of Emperor Constantine the Great. She is credited by the church with
Wait,
finding
wait, 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 wait. Wait. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. What did he say?
He
Hold
said
on.
what
This
he said what he
Constantine
said.
mama. That's Constantine mama. Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait.
or Helena of Constantinople, 246 to 330. She was said to be consort of Emperor Constantius and the mother of Emperor Constantine the Great. She is credited by the church with finding the relics of the true cross. Next, we have the portrait of Maria.
Hold on, that's Constantine mama. Listen. Yo! Yo! This Constantine mama. Hold on, wait a minute, wait.
On the right, we have Saint Empress Helena and Tsarina Ilyinichna, date 1670. Let's take a look at them individually. Ladies first, of course. We have Empress Saint Helena, also known as Saint Helena Augusta, or Helena
Saint Helena Augusta
of Constantinople, 246 to 330. She was said to be consort of Emperor Constantius. And
Constantius is Constantine dead. Wait a minute! Yeah, they lied about it. Oh,
She's also known as, for y'all to, so you because you probably heard her name. She's also known as Saint Helen. You know, a lot of y'all might not catch the Helena, but she's also known as Saint Helen.
Oh wait.
She's also supposed to be the one that named, supposedly found Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
Well, fake Mount Sinai, but you know, that's her name, Helen in English.
Wow, that's Constantine mama. Bag drop. Hold on.
And the mother of Emperor Constantine the Great. She is credited by the church.
This where you get he done wrote his mama into church history. She'd been deified and turned into a saint. Oh man, look, Constantine was a nigga. Oh man, listen. Oh, ain't no way. Oh man.
With finding the relics of the true cross. Next, we have the portrait of Maria Ilyinichna, Miloslavskaya, 1625 to 1669. She was the first wife of Tsar Alexis of Russia and mother of the Tsars Theodore III of Russia and Ivan V of Russia, as well as Regent Princess Sophia Alexievna. Maria was a younger daughter of the noble Ilya Danilovich Miloslavsky. This portrait depicts Nikon, born Nikita Minin, 1605 to 1681. He was the 7th Patriarch of Moscow and all of rules of the Russian Orthodox Church.
This is a Russian. We're going to show you where they got all this pretty brown skin from and all these long black nigga hair with these nappy beards and these locks.
Nikon introduced many reforms, such as Raskol, the event of splitting the Russian Orthodox Church into an official church, and that of the Old Believers movement in the mid-17th century Russia. In this painting, we have Tsar Alexis Mikhailovich of Russia, 1629 to 1676, House of Romanov. His father was Mikhail of Russia, and his mother was Eudoxia Streshneva. He was the first Tsar to sign laws on his own authority. In religious matter, he sided with Patriarch Nikon during the schism in the Russian Orthodox Church. The last, but definitely not the least person depicted in the True Cross of Russia painting is Constantine the Great, or Constantine the First.
Yo. Yo. See, and this is why I like to watch it live. You dig what I'm talking about? with the people, man. You did what I'm talking about. I don't watch this beforehand. You know what I mean? I say, man, this is a good topic, man. Let me just see. Let's go through this and see. You know, so you can get some real reactions. You dig what I'm talking about, man?
And you can tell that the pictures are real because look at the writing.
Yeah.
Look at the writing.
Mm-hmm. Look at Constantine. Man, this is the ruler of Constantinople. This is the guy who called who called the Council of Nicaea. That big white guy that they always show riding on that horse at the Milvian Bridge. Yeah, with the blonde hair flowing in the breeze, you know what I mean? Yeah. Wow. Look at Constantine, man. This is crazy. This is crazy. And look how old the writing is.
Mm-hmm.
Look how old writing is. Constantine the Great. Wow.
Born Flavius Valerius Constantinus. Constantine the Great was one of the most important emperors whose policies and choices reshaped not only the Roman Empire but also the world. Here we have the warrior and warlord Yermak Timofeyevich. Born in the 1500s, he was a Cossack and is considered a hero among the Russians today, where he is mythified and is spoken of in a Russian folklore manner. During the reign of the Russian Tsar Ivan the Terrible, Yermak is said to have started the Russian conquest of Siberia. On October the 26th, 1582, Yermak and his soldiers overthrew Kuchum Khan's Tatar Empire at Kashik in a battle that marked the conquest of Siberia. Yermak remained in Siberia and continued his struggle against the Tatars until 1584, when a raid organized by Kuchum Khan ambushed and expired Yermak and his party. And here we have a detail of a fresco depicting a tournament of knights. Pisanello tournament scene, or Hall of Pisanello Ducal Palace. Here we have the portrait of Aben Humeya, 1520 to 1560s, also known as Muhammad ibn Umayyah, born Ferdinand de Valor, Alpujarras Mountain. He was a Moorish general and Spanish politician who led successful Morisco revolts against the Spanish Empire and became the first king of Andalus. After capturing Granada, Aben Humeya crowned himself king. He was also said to be the cousin of Aben Abu. Both joined forces against the Catholic Church, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. After the Granada War ended on January the 2nd, 1492, the old Muslim-ruled Emirate of Granada became part of the Crown of Castile. The kingdom was the location of a Muslim rebellion in 1499 to 1501, and after the Muslims were defeated and forcibly converted, a Morisco rebellion in 1568 to 1571 following the annexation. The city of Granada, which had been the last center of Muslim power in the Iberian Peninsula, gradually declined. Bear in mind that these events took place after the Spanish Inquisition. And in this portrait, we have the depiction of Thomas de Torquemada. He was anglicized Thomas of Torquemada from the 14th of October 1420 to the 16th of September 1498. He was a Castilian Dominican friar and first Grand Inquisitor of the Tribunal of the Holy Office, also known as the Spanish Inquisitor. Thomas de
Yeah, that's a Spanish Inquisitor, man. And now, during these times, right, they had under what is called dumb diverses. the laws of peace and treaty, and also eminent domain, all papal bulls that gave the rights to the Reconquista and the Inquisition, that you could do all these evil acts and already, before you even do them, be forgiven by your God. And so this is why they were able to go out and slaughter the world and enslave the world, and did it under the name of Christ. So, or in the name of Christ. And
Right.
these type of people would come up with, they would trump up charges. They would say you were a Saracen. They would say you were a pagan. They would say you were a witch. And if you didn't readily get down and break down and, oh, Jeebus, and call out the Jeebus, boy, they was about to do something terrible to you. Right.
And a lot of times when they went to the countries and they did this, the people didn't even speak the language. They didn't know what they were saying.
Right. They didn't know what they was talking about. You know what I mean? And so, but after you barbecue about 3 people, you think what I'm talking about. And they up there talking about no, you think what I'm talking about, and then get barbecued. You ain't got to speak the language till you start saying, yeah.
Yeah.
You ain't got to, that's all the language you got to speak. All you got to do, see about 3, 4 people get barbecued, hang, get the guts pulled out, tarred and feathered, put in a Iron Maiden. You dig what I'm talking about? To start getting the point. Oh yeah, I'll be Christian then. Yeah, I was Christian yesterday. See, I told them. You dig what I'm talking about? They was enforcing this stuff on people, and if you wasn't down with it, and if you stood your line in your square, they was killing you. And it was people like this who did this in the name of God, man. And they so-called did it with a clear conscience. The God said they could do it. See how corrupt men had become?
Yeah.
The Tarquemada was the head of the Spanish Inquisition. This is the stained glass window at 2 Kesbury, Gloucestershire, depicting Gilbert de Clare, circa 1340. The House of Clare was a prominent Anglo-Norman noble house that ruled the earldoms of Pembroke, Hertford, and Gloucester in England and Wales.
Hold on. Look at his name. Wales. The Welsh. Just keep that name in mind.
In England and Wales, the Clare family derived in the male line from Gilbert, Count of Bryan, whose father was Geoffrey, Count of Hugh, was an illegitimate son of Richard I, Duke of Normandy, by an unknown mistress. Gilbert de Bryan was one of the guardians of William II, who became Duke of Normandy as a child in 1035. When Gilbert was assassinated in 1039 or 1040, his young sons, Baldwin and Richard Fitzgilbert, fled with their guardians to Baldwin V, Count of Flanders. They returned to Normandy when William married Baldwin's daughter in 1053, and William took them into high favor. After the conquest of England, Richard Fitzgilbert received extensive estates, including Clare and Tonbridge. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.
Okay. Want to share this with you, right? All right. I'm going to share this with you. This is from the book of Ezra, right? And we see that, these people in these early times where we commonly find pale people today, that we look back just a couple hundred years ago. You dig what I'm talking about? That there were majorly melanated people in them places who were functioning generally at a higher understanding. You dig what I'm talking about? So we kind of wonder, where do these people come from, and what is some of the initial mixes, right, that go on to produce this pale population? Because obviously, you dig what I'm talking about. They are who they are because of who their ancestors were. So you have pale skin today because you have pale skin ancestors recently in their genetics, and then they must have had some. So you dig what I'm talking about, and then the population begins to breed with itself. You dig what I'm saying? It's not hard to understand. It's just admixture in genetics. But in the earlier times, we find it like the oldest known European is called Cheddar Man, right? And he's heavily melanated with the blue eyes and the good hair. The oldest known European, he's about 10,000 BC. So how do we get that? You dig what I'm talking about? And he has modern ancestors today, and they white folks. Is obviously admixing. Nothing special to it, nothing spooky. But where does that chocolate skin come from? In them older stocks, how can you be a Caucasian or European on some ends? How can you be a Syrian, a Somalian, and all with this much variation? Because it really was that much variation. Let me show y'all something. This is the book of Ezra 50 and 30. And it says, now, after the fall of the great empire Egypt, right? Now, this can be, I take this, you dig what I'm saying, to be the original fall. 1200 to 1100 BC during the Bronze Age collapse. You could also look at it as the fall of Egypt, roughly 30 BC. You dig what I'm talking about? Under the when the Romans came and overthrew Egypt, right? You could count that as the fall of the great Roman Egyptian Empire, 30 BC, or you could count it as during circa 1100 BC. Depends on what you want to do with it, right? But if you, let's just look at it since the time of 30 BC, since the fall of where the Romans came and overthrew the Greeks in Egypt. Watch this. Now, after the fall of the great empire Egypt, her people migrated westward. Hundreds of thousands of them. And they settled in where? Western Europe or Western Europe. Where these people married with the Aborigines that are already there. Like Cheddar Man. Right? These are Egyptians. Right? They married in with the Aborigines of Europe. Their offspring, right? Their offspring were called who? The Druids. Who we would know as Irish, English. You dig what I'm talking about? The Picts, Scottish, the Gaels, French. Who? Remember we just seen this name? The Wales. See why they got that brown skin now? These are the Welsh. The Gauls. These are your Germans. The Johans, or who? The Johns, aka the Saxons. These are your English, Danish. All of which are Egyptian names preserved to this day. Let's see what this say down here. Oh, it's on the next page. Oh, that's the Tower of God. Hold on. So, and now look, now the faithists were moved by inspiration of God to have no more kings and flee from the Christian warriors. And they came among the above mentioned people. So who went? Right? Who went? Now, in reference to faithists, right? We talk about faithist stocks. In China and India, they were no longer identified with the kingdoms and governments, but lived about in scattered communities. In Africa, in the Middle East and Africa, in Hellas, which is basically what you would commonly call the Middle East, Russia, you know what I mean? Turkey to Russia, and Greece and all that, right? This would be where the Hellenic dynasties come from. And Europe, right? They were scattered in all directions. And from the time of Joshua's death, 110 BC, in Jerusalem, they began to mostly migrate west, going to before the Egyptian, already going out there to the western coast of Europe, Africa, and into the Hellenic dynasties, Greeks, Italy, all the way up to Russia. You dig what I'm saying? And into Western Europe, right? And they were scattered in all directions since Joshua's death, 110 BC, right? And look, and they migrated mostly towards the west, right? So Western Africa, Western Mediterranean, and Russian, you know what I mean? And into Western Europe since 110 BC. And they called themselves what? Israelites and Jews. Ain't that what we didn't always heard? It was in Western Africa, Western Europe. And nevertheless, many of the Israelites and Jews, so-called, were apostates in fact, eating flesh and marrying with the other people. So they was hunching and getting right on in, right with everybody else. And then Egypt fell. And they went amongst the same people and mainly into what? Western Europe. They went into the same places. Western Hellas, Western Arabia, Western Europe, and mixed right in with the people. And they became the Druids, the Picts, the Gaels, or who we would call the Celtics, the Welsh, the Gauls, the Johans, right? And they came among the people mentioned in the apostate faithists, these Jews, these so-called Israelites, these Leviticans, we found out who they was. They are Jews. They mixed among them, and their offspring were also the forefathers of who are now called French, German, Russian, English, Danish, Scottish. Huh? So the reason why we could never see it readily, because we was thinking when you think mix, you think two-way. We never even thought to think it three ways. Right? So, because look what we got in here. We got the apostate Jews, right? We got the apostate Jews. We got the Aboriginal Europeans, and we got the Egyptians, right? And this is basically since 30 BC, so might as well just say 0 AD. In 2024 years, look what we got. And now you can start following the wars and seeing the migration of the people and who win the war. And now you start to see where it come from. This is why they call these people Slav. Because initially they were slave stock. And then slave free themselves. 1486, and where they kicked out the Jews. 1492, when they kicked out Islam. What was left was the remnants of what you would call black nobility, Moorish nobility. And then, you know, by amalgamation, by war, by treachery, by whatever, you dig what I'm talking about? And then the whole Christianity pushing the idea that white is right. Everybody wanted to lighten up their skin. You dig what I'm saying? That brown skin wasn't seen as a patch of beauty anymore. You see what I'm saying? So when we looking, we can't just necessarily believe what our eyes are always seeing. Because what we seeing ain't always what it is. You can't judge a book by its cover. You got to get in there. You got to really do the work. You got to know it. Don't listen to what nobody tell you. Y'all didn't even listen. If you didn't know that there was a mass migration at the fall of Egypt into Western Europe, we need to look into that. You did what I'm talking about? The reason you may have an affinity or a like for Egypt is because shit, your grandma may be Egyptian and they just calling her English. Uh-oh. That picture ain't so black and white how they was trying to paint it back in the day, man. We got too much information to sit and let anybody tell us anything anymore. Not even God. Don't even listen to God. Because he lie a lot too. Remember, he had a man on earth he called his inquisitor, who killed you if you wasn't over here stepping for Jeebus. If you wasn't stepping for Jeebus, you had somebody coming to your door, kicking your crib, being beating your wife up, raping, doing whatever it is they wanted to do, and then set you on fire. And then guess what? They God forgave him. As a matter of fact, they God said, for whatever reason, whatever, you can go over there and scrutinize it because we scourging everything. If it ain't praising me, it's out of there. Even if it is, and anything happen, you can get everybody up out of there and you will be forgiven. So go ahead and kill them. But nobody told us Europeans were a three-way mix. We know the Jews was there. We know the Aboriginal European was there. Did you know the Egyptian was there? That might be something Cosmon need to look into. Could this be, because at this time we see Caesar entering Rome and being overthrown by Augustus or Octavian. And that would, in a sense, be the fall of Egypt. Or, like I said, it could be the true fall of Egypt during Escra. Right? It could be the one, and they have been mixing in with the Aboriginal Europeans since the fall of Escra. But we see a major movement at that time into Egypt. Right. So this is why with the understanding of the stories of the sea peoples and all that stuff, you know what I mean? We at that same time. So this is why I tend to think it is the when they say the fall of Egypt, they're talking about basically going from, you know, Greek to Roman, and the true smashing of all true Egyptian type heritage, because at least the Greeks was trying to uphold it a little bit, trying to play like they was Pharaoh, and you know what I mean, since Alexander, it came in 332, you know what I mean, and because he put the smack down on it and then gave it to his homeboy Ptolemy and they had ran it for over 200 plus years till its fall. Right. Let's see what it say. 1187. That is in the years after Moses departed Egypt with the Israelites. They're talking about New Kingdom, and they are talking about Escra. That even makes it more. That makes more sense. That makes more sense. That these Egyptians have been moving since the Bronze Age collapse in Europe. This is how you get black gypsies, because they Egyptian. Right? Okay. And later, right? Even though it's told before, this is actually comes later. That the time when Yeshu died, right? Right here. From the time of Yeshu's death, which is in 110 BC in Jerusalem, the faiths start mixing in with the Egyptian and the Aboriginal European, right? The Aborigines of Western Europe have been mixing in over 1,000 years already. So, right, the faithist families, Jews, whatever you want to call them, that's just one of them, right? Moving into Africa, Greece, and the Mediterranean region, and Europe, right? Mixed in, right, with these already Egyptian Europeans. Ooh-wee. And that three-way mix goes on for the last 2,000 plus years to produce what we call today your modern European. Dang. You know what I mean? That's crazy, you know. That is crazy. And hold on, let's go back a little more. It says, all of which are Egyptian names: Gael, Pict, Druid, Johan. Right. And this is the Tower of God. Let's see. Let's go look and see, where are the Druids from? Where are the Druids from? Let's see. Druids were active in Britain, Ireland, Gaul, modern day France, and possibly other regions. The Greek writer Diochristodom, who lived during the 1st century AD, compared Druids to the Magi and the Brahmins of India. Now, look at this. Funny. Look at what they're showing. They've proven that they had these structures, and then look what's in Owaspy. Right? Hold on. What is this? The wicker images. Right? Hold on. How do I get out of here? Let me share this. That's crazy. All right, that's crazy. Owaspy just ahead of the game, man. It is what it is. Look, woodcut depicting a Druid human sacrifice. This is from the Druids. These are Gauls, right? Hold on, let me show you this. Remember, hold on. They are from Britain, Ireland, and modern day France, right? Let me show you this. Let me share this. Look, this is Druid from Britannica. Ancient what? Celtic culture. Who did they say these people was? The admixed Aboriginal European and the Egyptian. But look, it's just funny that they got this large built up statue man building a woodcut depicting of a Druid human sacrifice, right? And then right in Owaspy, look what it got. You think that's just a mistake? Huh? Hold on, let's go back a little bit. My bad. I gotta go back and share the screen, y'all. But we just showing the similarities. It's time, it's done for all the division. You know what I mean? It's done for all the division, man. It's time to start showing that oneness. You know what I mean? Revealing the truth within a thing, not necessarily trying to just separate it or be first or I'm this and you that, and you know what I mean? We just gonna get to the truth of the thing. You know what I mean? And let it be what it is. Right? Let's see. Okay. Druids were active in Britain, Ireland, Gaul. Right? Let's get to this. Let me show this. Because I want to show the one with the lady. They got one with a lady. Lady. All right. Here it go. Here it go. This is the one I want to show. This is the one I want to show. This is the one I want to show right there. Can I blow that up a little bit? See, it's a woman. Just like the one we see in Owaspy at the Tower of God. Remember? Let's see. What's another name that they get these people? We already seen Celtic. Had to do with Druid. Look, what about the Picts? Let's go look at the Picts. Watch this. Now, the Picts are a mix of Aboriginal Europeans. They are a mix of Aboriginal Europeans and the Egyptian. Look how they're depicted. I think this is interesting. They're depicted with this blue skin. Picts were a group of people in northern Britain. Let's see where's that at? Where's northern Britain? Great Britain. Look at that. Great Britain is an island in the North Atlantic Ocean off the northwest coast of continental Europe, consisting of England, Scotland, and Wales. It is the largest of the British Isles. North of the Firth of Forth, in the Middle Early Ages, there lived the details and culture can be gleaned from early medieval texts and Pictish stones. As we see, this is pictographic, hieroglyphic writing, right? Exactly what you should be seeing from a people who coming from Egypt at a roughly 1000 BC. The name Picti appears in written records as an exonym, as a common native name of a group of people. From the late 3rd century AD, they are assumed, look, 3rd century AD. So these people would have been really made up after, you did what I'm talking about, the fall of Egypt. I mean, the death of freaking Yeshua. This is why you don't see the name pop up till 3rd century, because you needed 100 or so years to come around, 102 years. You know what I mean? 100, 300 years to come on around, and then the name picks up as a group of people, but not that the people weren't there. Right? We're finding out that the people have been there since 1100 BC. Actually, Escra is from 1150 BC to 750 BC. So they would have had to move there prior 1150. So we could say 1200. And we see an abandonment of Egypt during this time, during the 19th dynasty. Crazy. Right? They set up the Kingdom of Alba. Interesting. Who else Owaspy say over here? The Gales. Let's see who the Gales are. Let's go and look who the Gales are. Who are the Gales? Okay, let me see this. Now they spell it a little different. Let me see how Owaspy spell it. Owaspy spell it Gales. Wikipedia spells it Gaels. Right? It says not to be confused with Gauls. Right? And Owaspi says why it is confusing Gales with Gauls is because really they are the same stock. That's why it's so confusing, right? Now, the Gales are an ethno-linguistic group native to Ireland and Scotland and the Isle of Man, right by Ireland and Scotland. They are associated with the Gaelic languages. Gaelic or Goidelic form one of the two groups of insular Celtic languages, the other being the Brittonic tongue. So really, if you really want to hear what that ancient Egyptian was sounding like, go listen to the ancient tongues of Scotland and Ireland, or Gael, the Scottish Gaelic, that sing-songy tongue. Gaelic language and culture originated in Ireland, did it? You know what I mean? Did it? Extending to Dalriata in western Scotland. In antiquity, the Gaels traded with the Roman Empire and also raided the Roman Britain. In the Middle Ages, Gaelic culture became dominant throughout the rest of Scotland and the Isle of Man, where was also some Gaelic settlement in Wales, as well as cultural influence through the Celtic Christianity. In the Viking Age, small numbers of Viking raided into and settled into Gaelic lands, becoming the Norse Gaels. So we know these is black folks, right? But these Norse Gaels, who on the outskirts now, all right, now dominate the whole island. Ain't that crazy? These are the northern. Norse means north. They from the real cold region. In the 9th century, Dalriata Pickland. All right. Okay. Well, let's see who the Gauls are. Now we can see who who descends from them today. The Gauls or Gaelic tribes were Celtic tribes who lived primarily in modern France, but whose conquest brought them as far as Anatolia. Anatolia is Turkey. In the mid 5th century BCE, we find Latine culture, a Celtic subculture located in what is now France. Latine. Latine. Latin. Latine. Latino. We also find right here in Spain a Latino. Ladino. Latino culture, which is Jewish. Latine culture, a Celtic subculture located in what is now France, but what was then called God. Yeah. What about the Johans or the Johns? Let's look up the word Johann. Who are the Johans? No, there's Johannes. Johannes. Let me see. The Johann. And they also become the Johns. Let me see. Okay, they keep bringing up Johannes the first. Johann. Let me try the name Johns. Who are the Johns? Let me see how they spell it. Yeah. Hold on. What is this? Tribes of Europe. No, we're not subscribing to nothing, Poppy. No. Wow. First thing when I punched it, it pulled up a lost 10 tribes from some Prester John and all that. I get it, but that's not what we're looking for. The Johanns are the English. Right? The Johanns or the Johns are the English, the British, the Britons. Let me try it one more time. Yo, maybe they got it this way. They still keep bringing me back to Johannes. Hold on. Let me back. I told you. I told you Cosmo to find it. I told you I'll find it. Dig this. Yeah. OCA. Yep, correct. Yeah, it's just admixing, bro. It's hunching. There ain't no secret to it. Nobody's special because of it, or better or less for it. You hunch on who you around. And when migration and forced migration and inquisitions and reconquistas and war and pestilence and then natural disasters happen, things happen. And people gonna mess around who you're around. So you white today because you had a white ancestor. At a certain point, they come from brown ancestors. But how that happened? Admixture. You dig what I'm talking about? Ain't even nothing special about it, bro. You dig what I'm talking about? People try to add this extra on there like it's something. It ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Everybody got here the same way, hunching. And just about who you match your genetics with is just relatively how your children will come out. There ain't no telling that's how they even gonna come and look. And then you could have 2, 3 children and none of them look the same or look like you. They could look like your mama and your daddy and your sisters, or they mamas and they daddies and they sisters. You dig what I'm talking about? The other parent. Johannes is a medieval Latin form of personal name, usually appears as John in English, right? It is a variant of the what? The Greek, right? And classical Latin. Could these be your men knowings? Could this be the birth of your Etruscan stock? Straight out of, I'm just saying, look, it's the same name, Johannes, in Dutch, German, Amharic, Finnish. Look at all these European dialects. Johann. It's the same name as Giovanni. It's the same name as Juan and Evan. Ha, ha. I get it. And Ian. John Johann is Dutch and German. Right here. This is where it will be coming from. They would be your Dutch, your German, and your Finnish people. The Johanns. Itself derived from the Hebrew Yahakanan, meaning Yahweh is gracious. Didn't we say that they had that Jewish stock in them? Makes sense. The name became popular in Northern Europe, especially in Germany. And my thing is, y'all didn't get white to these Jews. Hey, listen, man, listen. Oh, my. Common German variants for Johannes or Johann, Hannes, Hans, or diminutized to Hanschen or Hansel, as known from Hansel and Gretel, a fairy tale by Grimm and the brothers. And look, in the Basque, it is Johann. Johannes in northern Ethiopia, right? Hannes in Finnish, French, Galatian, Southern Gaelic. Yeah. If it wasn't there, how's old Watch be revealing that? And then it say, right, the apostate faith is married in with these people who was already half Egyptian, half European, who have been mixing with each other for 1,000 years. This is where you get, this is why Alexander M. Brown. Oh, this is why the Etruscans is brown. Oh. What? They are the forefathers. Hold on. The European, Egyptian, or African, you could say. And then the Negroidal mix of the Persian stock of that Israelite, that Jew, that apostate, mixed right back in with this European African and produced modern day white folks. It's a 3-way mix, not a 2. Dang. They your modern French, Man, we just looked up the Gauls. You're German. We just looked up the Johanns. This is the Rus. We'll get into them later. But that's who they are. And the English. Oh, word. Hey, look, we ain't gonna keep it too long on this one, man. That was, just some talking points, man. Thank you for Iman for coming through. You want to say anything to anybody before you get up out of here, Iman?
No, just tell have a great day to everybody. Remember to breathe in and let the light of the Creator in.
That's right.
Like you always say. Right. Yeah. That's
right. Hey, we ain't gonna keep them too long though, Iman. They brain sizzling a little bit right now. You know what I mean? Letting that light in there. You dig what I'm talking about? Let them think on it. Have some good thoughts to think on it and new information to look forward to next time they get to studying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So y'all have a great rest of the day, because I'm out.
Hey, y'all go over there to Ahuba Eats on Creator Gang TV at YouTube. Sub, like, share. She always got the vegetarian vegan hookup on all the good tasty stuff. She even taught you how to get drunk the other time. got that wine together, had us perving over Christmas. We was over there, we was drunk. No, Eva wouldn't do that, but she will teach you how to hook them wines up and show you how to ferment them properly, and the proper steps and all the cooking stuff, because can't nobody out cook her. I want to see Tikva, Sister Mahalia, and Ima Ahuba in the kitchen at the same time. I would just move out the way. I would just look in there. I wouldn't even do nothing. I wouldn't even say nothing. I can't cook no way. Hey, Cosmo hardly boil water good. You know what I mean? But I would love to see them sisters get together and throw down in there, man. Oh man, that'd be ugly. So we're gonna get it together, man. We're gonna have this Faith Family reunion, man. Try to put this together this year. We get out here and meet up somewhere sometime this year. Somewhere it's warm, man. Just do me warm. I can't do no more cold right now, y'all. I'm in Michigan. It was like 72 the other day, and now it's like below 100. You gonna tell about they don't know what it want to do up here. So we'll put it together, man. Shout out there to the Creator Gang, man. And y'all have a great Friday, man. Cash them checks and send me some money. You dig what I'm talking about? I'm gonna hit y'all with the old Jesus to pass the plate around here. You dig what I'm talking about? Don't make me pass the soft shoe around this mug. You dig what I'm saying? But anyway, y'all support the channel. Sub, like, share, man. Hit that like button, man. Share it on your social media, man. And then, as a matter of fact, you may have subscribed to the channel. Go back and make sure you hit all notifications so that you get all notifications. It's saying that a lot of y'all have subscribed, but you haven't hit the all notification button. So y'all go up there, hit that, support your big homie, man. And I'll be back in the morning or to get some more light. You dig what I'm talking about? Hey, breathe in. Let that light in. You know why? You know why. Because I'm Cosmon and I'm out.
And oh yeah, put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feel it when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh It's that Japheth, that Chow Mein, that Papabul, that Tao Mein, since sunset in the arc of Wayne. My brain moving like Tao Sang. So ass above, it's so below. That up and that down thing. This flow is atmospherian. I call that a ground game. See, water is knowledge, so if I'm teaching, you're learning. So how your God make a sun without vortexing current? See, the pattern is ponic. I'm reaching out for my people. Oh, watch me flow through your speakers. You feel the force of the ether. And when the force gets the equal, I'm taking off like an eagle. Police popped the pastor yesterday for pushing put equal. My DNA is Moshe. Mix that thing with higher water. My spirit rate is OTN. It's just a higher order. Got more light than Kavita. Rap a lot just like Tila. Went from sinner to saint. Shout out my big homie Sela. Got more torque than a sports car. Got more work than a door stop. In the 4 million I make, I'm giving the Dr. Umar. Oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air. Oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air. Oh yeah. Super 7 in my rites and ceremonies. I'm married to Jehovah, holy matrimony. Confucius say, in the words of Caillou, before you hit the tomb, be a bridegroom. Only got one question for Miss Susan B. On how to last Ahu when it's now a ennui. Blame my inspiration, I'm just thinking thoughts. But in the way of God's, we gon' keep it short. Why Jesus wanna kill me, Matthew 10:34. Just a couple questions that I'm needing to know. Oh, watch me flow, it's so potent. Set the vortex in motion. Super 7, I'm floating across the Aegean Ocean. Oh, you a Muslim now, so I guess you making salat. Well, I'm a Israelite, I'ma make him at the Shabbat. Got Moses on the bumper, super slap off in my spaceship photosphere. So I stay lit, peace and light to the faith is so yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air. Oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied